2 years have gone by already with this vehicle. It's a Ram 1500 2022, and I bought this new. I've had this since it had 32 kilometers on it on the dash, and that is the first car that I've ever purchased new. So I had a lot of decisions and plans going into buying this vehicle and the use cases for it. A few of the reasons that I picked this vehicle when I bought it new was that I needed a truck for my company. Moving furniture in and out, I had a studio, so moving furniture was a regular thing, and it was getting a little difficult trying to pick up stuff and rent vehicles, and I had enough in the budget to upgrade out of the Chrysler 300 into the Ram because the price difference wasn't that much. So I traded in the 300, got a significant amount for it because it was a highly sought after vehicle, which made it easy to get into this Ram. And now the reason I picked the Ram Classic with the V6, with the limited slip differential and the 355 gears was that it was less expensive. It wasn't one that everybody wanted. So for them, they let it go at a good price, which is great. For me, now, I'll talk about this a little later, but I got the V6 because I knew I wasn't towing. So I didn't need this big Hemi or a diesel option if I'm not going to tow. I'm only taking furniture, which is like a couple 100 pounds. I don't need that. I just need cargo space with no roof. Easy, right? So truck makes sense. I don't need a cargo van because like this one made the most sense out of all of it, and it was at a good price. And when I was searching, I did think of having a cargo van, but the prices were astronomical because Amazon was buying them all out. They were in the hundreds of thousands of dollars for any type of cargo van. So not even close to being affordable. I'm like, well, if I could get a cargo van for a couple $100,000, well, I'll just buy a house and quit doing my job if I had that type of money. Anyways, I got this one. This truck worked out really well for its use case. Had nice 33-inch tires that were really good on the highway for mileage. I'll talk more about that after. And then it worked. It was great for moving the furniture. It had enough space to put the dog in the back as well. It had enough space for a couple of the other use cases in terms of how I use it was I like to road trip. So having a V6, having a big back seat allowed me to travel across the country to visit some friends in BC and Calgary and a few other spots. And I was able to sleep in the back of the truck. So I'd save on cost on having to rent a hotel or any of that kind of stuff, and then trying to find a place or an Airbnb that accepts dogs without charging an astronomical fee on top of it. This worked out really well. So it's fantastic because I'm a little shorter. I can actually sleep across the back seat without having to hunker down or anything. So that's pretty neat. And then having the V6, fuel economy is pretty good for highway driving. That's nice. So I also, when I first got it, I have the tonneau cover, which I'm going to talk about a little later as well. It's good, but I don't like it anymore. It worked for what it needed to do. It is no longer working for me now. So we're going to look for options for that. And now it's more of a toy and a hauler, which is a surprise to me because like I said, this was not supposed to tow. So over the 2 years, I've done some mods. So let's dive into those mods. Which ones did I do first? So one of the first modifications was wheels and tires. Now, I've been friends and acquaintances with a bunch of the Jeep groups because back in the day I worked at Murray Jeep Ram, and one of the people that we sponsored was Jeep 204 or 204 Jeep, I forgot their name. But I get to go out with them and film them and do some stuff for our social media, and I was able to take out Willys and Gladiators and other Wranglers and Rubicons and all different Jeeps and different tiers. I got to take out a ton of different Rams and stuff. Didn't take them out with the Jeep guys. different class of things. But with that, I really liked off-roading, and I wanted to take something of my own, but I didn't like the ride of a Jeep. There's just something with the seat. It always hurt my knee, just the seating position. So I always enjoy driving the trucks. So I got to test drive hundreds of different vehicles before I even got this one. So I kind of knew exactly what I was getting into when I was getting this truck and which mods that I'd want to do first if I was going off-road. So the Geolanders are the first modifications that I've done, and to fit these in, I did a spacer lift. I think it was a 2.5 in the front and the back, just to get enough lift to fit these. Because my goal is to be subtle. I don't need to go super extreme, and I want to stay on a budget, but I want to make sure I buy the right things. So these are not budget tires. These are really good tires, so the price fits accordingly. These, on the other hand, were budget wheels. So they were, what, 800 bucks for the set? And they've been great, because the goal was something with a deep dish that I can scratch up and not feel too bad about. A bit of a recent addition that changed from when I initially got the vehicle is towing a trailer. When I got this vehicle, I had not planned on towing. I knew I had the ability to tow if I needed to for the 7,600 pounds that it was rated for, but in my mind, getting the V6, I would not tow with this vehicle. However, I am now towing with the vehicle, and it's pretty good, but you do really feel the lack of V8 power or diesel power in this powertrain when on the highway and accelerating. You don't have that abundance of power to get moving as quick as like I normally do. I used to tow with a Ram 1500, my big lifted yellow one on 37s with different gears, and a much bigger trailer. And it was fine, because it was happy to pull things along with the 5.7 liter Hemi that one had. This, in comparison to it, can feel a bit anemic and underpowered. With that being said, you don't need all that power. You don't need to accelerate that fast. Like, it's never stopped me from going anywhere. It's never stopped me from climbing a hill. It's never been a lack of power that has disallowed me from pulling the weight that I pull. Because like, I have a trailer right now that's capacity is 5,000 pounds. Well, within the 7,600 pounds that it allows me to have in this V6, I'll probably never take up to 7,600 pounds. Like, that's just a lot for this engine. Filling this to 5,000 pounds would probably be more than what I'm comfortable with. So one of the things that I may change in the future fairly soon, well, not fairly soon, but one of the things that's on my radar to change is the brakes. That piece has always felt weak compared to everything else in the vehicle. Even before I put the tires on, brakes were in my mind. A big brake conversion kit or something along those lines is on my mind for changing out. It's like, these brakes just don't do it for me. I don't know if it's the lack of brakes, because I've always been able to stop, but it just feels limited. It feels like I can't stop, even though I do. Could be a software thing with the ABS. I don't know, but it's on my list of things to change in the future before doing anything else big. Before I'd even think of adding any power to this, would be doing brakes. So another one of the mods that I've done is just a nice little sports rack. I've had this forever. The sports rack bars here, had them through many different vehicles, and is just big enough to fit the truck. I'm at full extension on this. Now, the sports rack allowed me to put this little thing on I got from Evan, so shout out to Evan. Traded him some computer parts for this, so fantastic. Took a little bit of spray painting, covered up all the rust, so it should be good for at least a couple years. Yeah. Now this light bar is a recent addition. I got this from Wayne, so thank you, Wayne, for letting me take this off your hands. This, I didn't know how much of a difference that this would actually have off-roading. I went out with Kevin just recently, and this provides so much light off-road that it takes a lot of the fear of off-roading in the dark. You can see everything. I should probably put a video together just talking about how this light bar and its position and where it fits here works. You know what? I will. We'll talk about that more in a different video, but light bar, sports rack, definitely helps. Oh shit, while I'm up here, these. Talked about these a little bit. Just for the aesthetic. I like them. They're getting scratched up from the trees, but hey, that's what happens when you take it off-road. Let's talk about the mileage. There's 3 stages that I've gone through in terms of mileage with this vehicle. At stock, at just adding the tires and a little bit of a lift, and now towing. So with those changes, each one of those had a significant change on its mileage. I did get the V6, so this is the 305 or 304, 315 horsepower, somewhere around there in terms of power for the engine, which has been, honestly, it's been good. I notice it in the most when towing, the lack of power. However, it hasn't stopped me from towing. It just, you find that you use a lot more RPM during the towing aspects. So let me talk about how it was stock. Stock, I was getting around 8 to 10 liters per 100 kilometers on the highway, averaging all the way from Winnipeg to Thunder Bay. I even got as low as 8 liters average for Thunder Bay to Winnipeg, which was fantastic, doing 95 to 100 kilometers an hour and just straight sticking to that speed. It was fantastic. Adding on these larger tires, these 35s Yokohama Geolanders, significantly impacted my mileage. The mileage now, with the wheels and driving with this new setup with the little bit of a lift and the new tires, the 35s, increased my liters per 100 all the way up to 12 to 13 liters on the highway for a similar trip. So going from here to Vancouver and back ends up being quite a bit more expensive. I think it adds like $300 extra in fuel over that period. Now, adding this trailer, that has increased the liters per 100 again to a significant amount. I'm now averaging, when I've been pulling this trailer with it mostly loaded with like a couple thousand pounds in there, I am now averaging 19 liters per 100 on the highway, and then in the city it goes even up from there. So mileage, I'm not even sure if that's bad. I know if I had a diesel it would be significantly better, but in terms of this to the V8, I'm curious to see how my mileage compares to your mileage, or your real world mileage, because I'm getting from stock on stock wheels and stock everything, no lift or anything, not pulling a trailer, 8-9 liters per 100 kilometers on the highway. Then with the lift and the tires, I moved up to about 12 to 14 liters per 100 kilometers on the highway. Now with the trailer, increased again up to averaging 19 to 21 liters per 100 kilometers, depending on how much load and the wind. So I'm very curious if you could put in the comments what you guys are getting, because I want to see where I'm at, to see if I'm doing well versus the V8s or doing horrible versus the V8s in terms of adding this extra stuff. Because one of my friends said you don't notice as massive an impact if you had the bigger engine when you're adding these type of stuff. So I'm curious to see. One of the few small things that I've changed about this vehicle over the past 2 years was a recent one. I added a bit of soundproofing, sound dampening materials into the door panels, and less about dampening the sound from the outside, because the vehicle is already quite quiet. There's a bit of road noise from one of the other modifications, which I'll get to. But the door panels were starting to become squeaky. So I took the door panels apart, I soundproofed all the pieces that were squeaky, that were moving around, that shouldn't be. It was baffling and batting against the internal pieces and just making a lot of noise that I didn't want. In particular, when I had the music up and some of those mid-range bass hits would rattle all the doors, and not even at a high volume. They were at normal volumes, and very different from when it was new. Because new, everything was solid, everything was tight. But after using the vehicle for so long, things just start falling apart, which is totally fine. So, $40 worth of sound deadening material used in very particular places to tighten everything back up, and now everything is minty again and quiet. A few things I don't like about the Ram. Now, I got the 3.55 gear ratio because highway driving, right? So great fuel economy on the highway. Now, it's kind of a detriment to me because now I've changed up to 35-inch tires and hopefully 37s in the future, here nor there, whatever. But going up to 35s and now towing, having that 3.55 gears really puts a strain on everything. So what has changed in terms of priority from when I first bought it to now? I wanted really good fuel economy for the highway driving, and now it's running against me and causing me more fuel on the highway. Do I change the gears at the few grand that it's going to cost, or live with it and get a new vehicle? That's kind of where I'm at. Another thing I don't quite like is actually the roof rack. And here's why. Everything really does come down to mileage and cost, because I do plan on going to BC quite often. And every time I add something that adds another 1 to 2 liters per 100 kilometers, that actually affects the whole big dynamic of traveling across the country in an economic way. So even though I've gone from 8 to 9 liters per 100 kilometers up to 12 to 13 liters per 100 kilometers on the highway when I changed out the tires, that equates to a couple $100 extra in fuel when it's already costing quite a bit of fuel to get there. Now I add another 1 or 2 liters per 100 up there, and then I add like 7, 8, 9 liters per here with the trailer. Now I'm sitting around, what, 19, 20 liters per 100 kilometers. And then I don't even know what the trailer's gonna be if I'm pulling it up a mountain. So like, that cost goes from like $600 round trip up to $1,200 round trip. It starts adding up. So maybe if I take the trailer but cut off that, maybe it'll find some balance somewhere. This tonneau cover, it's beat to hell. It has been vandalized. People have tried to break it open. I've patched it, but they're just patches, it's temporary. It should be replaced. But I also don't want a tonneau cover because of the functionality that this tonneau cover has really pulls away from how I want to use the truck going forward. So a cap is in the near future. I'm trying to find a good cap that's not astronomical in cost. If you do have suggestions, let me know. So to be honest, this vehicle has done fantastic off-road. People say trucks are not for off-road, but I don't know. It has done everything that I've asked it to do. I've got stuck only a handful of times on the breakover angle. So going up to 35s, or sorry, going up from 35s to maybe 37s, or even going with a small lift or a big lift can help with the approach and departure and breakover angle. So the fact that it does have a long wheelbase has helped, even in the trans-licensed road, helping me out of some of those locations where the Willys and even the four-door Jeep had trouble getting out of those holes because they couldn't get the front tires over that gap before the rear tires were coming up that slippery hill. The truck was able to stay at the base and get the front tires up and just climb over without too much issue.
Oh yeah, the Ram gets out on his own.
Which is really cool. It is detrimental in some issues, in some locations, in some challenges, but for the most part, driving it with that knowledge, you can avoid them or tackle them in different ways. So I may look at doing different wheels, but at the same time, nothing really here in Manitoba requires that. And then if I do go there, there's a whole bunch of other issues, fuel economy and just gearing and just weak components carrying that much weight at those four corners. So maybe, maybe not. Maybe I'll buy a Jeep, because now I can tow one, or an ATV. Yeah. I do have to mention the ride quality. Ride quality of this vehicle is pretty smooth and nice and soft. It's good for a daily driver. Not as smooth as the 300, but that was just like driving a boat. So it would just float across float across the country. It was really nice. And even smoother than that, and even better than that one, was my BMW 330. So that was my favorite ride. The 300 was the most comfortable and second favorite ride. And then this truck is quite up there. You know the vehicle I hated the most for driving across country, which I could not stand? Not a Jeep, but the Civic. The Civic, the pain that it caused me because of the seats. Anyways. Now I've switched over to a different mic, and now we're going to listen to the inside of the vehicle of how it rattles along the highway and whatnot. It's like, Jesus, it's tight here. So I'm going to take the audio cleaning off so you can hear how loud it is in the vehicle. There's a bit of road noise. There's a bit of rattling, but that's just because I've got a bunch of stuff on the table. But in terms of road noise, in terms of like hearing the tires, negligible. It is quite quiet in here. There is more wind noise on here because of the roof rack and the light bars. That does add a little bit of noise. And one of the other issues that I did fix, like I said before, was adding a little bit of soundproofing into the doors. When I had the doors off, there's a lot of what do you call it? Not soundproofing, but the plastic, hard plastic and layers, so the sound has to go through different baffles, which I think is why it keeps it so quiet. And now that I've added the soundproofing and the sound dampening, it's even better. But here, just listen to noise. I'll get up to 50 or something. Bounce around. Not bad, eh? Not bad at all. On the topic of noise, and how it's nice and quiet, the V6 doesn't put out much sound, which is a good thing and a bad thing. It's a little bit of both. Now, I miss the V8 growl. I do like it. Like, it's one of my favorite things. However, having it all the time is annoying. I did get frustrated with it in my V8 truck that I had before. So I'm very happy that this one is as quiet as it is. There's not much fuss from the engine. There's not a loud muffler noise either. So for me, this is great. But if you do like your V8 sound, you're going to be missing it significantly in this vehicle because there isn't anything. So in conclusion, this truck has been able to grow with me as my priorities have changed, as I've had to adapt to different situations. This truck has been able to keep up with everything that I've needed to do, which is fantastic. It went from strictly a moving truck to move all my stuff to a bit of a fun vehicle to take off-road here and there and whenever. But it still maintains all of those other aspects of being a good, reliable vehicle. And I guess that's the main thing. That's why I bought a new car, was so I don't have a breakdown, because I can't afford to break down. That's a whole company thing. But now I can bring everything that I need. I'm not limited in any way, shape, or form in terms of space. And now even with the trailer, I could turn that into a whole mobile studio, which is absolutely fantastic. So this truck has been great. Future mods, that's what I want to get into. So a bumper that can house a winch definitely needs to look at. Like I was saying as well, brakes, because I've had adding all this extra weight, being able to stop with confidence is something that I am definitely thinking of. Removing the sports rack, but keeping the light bar, definitely another issue that I want to tackle and look at, but not immediately. A cap for the back. Getting rid of the tonneau cover and replacing with a cap. Definitely something happening sooner or later, hopefully before winter, because it needs to be more useful with the tonneau cover, and this one in particular, I really don't like it. If you want to know more about that, just ask me and I'll give you all the details of why I don't like this one. More stickers? Probably. Or would I remove the stickers? I'm 50-50 on that, because I want the truck to stand out, because, I mean, it's more of a toy now, it's less of a work tool. Still supports work, but it's definitely not the main tool for work, which is awesome. So what do you guys think? Would you get one? Would you be able to use it for your lifestyle? For me, I think it's fantastic. And it works. Even with the smaller V6, I think that works for me. And I know I was talking about in another video, going up to maybe a Power Wagon or some type of the 2500. But honestly, now that I've had this and gone through all of the trips with this and just really used this vehicle, and now that I've been building it, I feel like I'm more emotionally attached to it now than I was before. Before, it was just a tool. Now, it's my truck. You know what I mean? On that note, me and my truck are gonna head home, get some more renovations done. We'll talk soon. Thank you guys. We'll see you later. Bye.